The Not So Great Outdoors contains stories of a graphic nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
The outdoors are great.
Except
when they're not.
Welcome to the Not So Great Outdoors. We're your guides. I'm Seth.
And I'm Piff.
And I'm Josh.
And we finally got Josh on to talk about ghost hunting.
Woohoo!
Which
Took a while.
Yeah, as an extra special anniversary month treat.
Yes.
And what else did we do, Seth?
We went ghost hunting last night.
I finally got them to go to do
Yes.
that.
It was a lot of fun. But before we get into that, Piff has some very exciting news.
So, as you guys all know, I got married in 2020 because we had a whole thing in all of our episodes about my wedding because there was a pandemic and it was the only thing to talk about.
It was a whole thing? Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm pregnant.
Yay! And I can finally talk about it. God bless.
I can finally talk about it. So nothing's gonna really change, except you might notice that I look pregnant.
And I talk about it because I'm gonna be obnoxious about it.
So,
but yes,
we're very excited.
And last night we were filming some footage, but before we did the ghost hunt, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we went to get food at several places because Tiffany's pregnant,
because
so
I'm
she
pregnant.
gets to get whatever she wants. But Taco Bell didn't have pink lemonade, and I went to say, she's pregnant. Like, what the hell? But I went, and like cut myself off. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, when are we telling the pod people that you're pregnant?
I was like, probably the episode.
Probably now. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, she's
it also
pregnant.
is like relevant to like the one ghost that was like kind of hanging out with me last night. So.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Can we show them the boots?
Oh,
of course we can show them the boots.
The boots are the cutest. I don't care about the clothes.
They're so cute.
Look at those boots.
Little adventure boots.
They're so great.
You said the insides were cute. I haven't even looked
They're
at the insides.
plaid.
Oh, they're plaid.
Oh.
They're plaid on the inside. We've got these little boots. We used them for our announcement photos, so.
Which will no doubt be shared on the podcast.
We'll share them with you guys.
So sweet. But yes, we're very excited. How far along are you?
When this comes out or now?
Right now, recording in
real life, I am 12 weeks, but when this comes out, I will be 16 weeks.
Yes. We record ahead of time.
So, yeah.
A long time.
Yeah, we try.
So I'll be firmly in my second try by the time this comes out.
Yes. We're all very excited for Tiffany and my brother, but mostly for Tiffany.
And the boots.
And the boots. The boots are the best part.
Josh is only excited about the boots.
They're so cute.
I just want to see a little human actually fit in those things.
He will eventually. I would say he. I feel like it's boy. We don't know.
We don't know.
I'm
the
going
sex
with
of
girl.
the baby.
You're going with girl? All right. We'll see who's right.
Yeah, in about 7 months.
A while. Yeah.
So.
Also, tell the people when you're due.
I'm due in October.
Yes.
So it's going to be a spooky baby. I'm very excited.
So I think it's going to come early October, but she's going to hold it in until Halloween.
Yeah. I'm just going to hold it in.
Yeah.
Although all of my mom friends are like, by the time you hit October, you're going to be so ready for this kid to be out of you.
You're going to be like,
but
all right.
The aesthetic of Halloween baby.
What if your kid hates Halloween?
Oh, that is not an
That was a terrible face.
Not an option. It was. She was like, don't even.
That's no.
It's not an option.
Also, like, so kids love Halloween. You get to dress up. You get free candy.
Yes.
The best movies, like kids' movies, are Halloween movies. It's just a fact.
It'll be great.
Okay.
Either way, it's going to be adorable. Yes. I freaking love Hocus Pocus.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I have a story for you. So, you know our Hocus Pocus episode?
Yes.
So, as a reminder, or if you haven't heard it, or if you're listening backwards for some reason, this past Halloween, I retold the story of Hocus Pocus as if it was a true crime story to mess with Saf.
And it worked.
And
got me.
I got her. My very good friend was listening to the podcast today and texted me and said, I'm listening to your Hocus Pocus episode. This is brilliant.
Yes, it was brilliant. It was awesome.
Comedic gold. It's like my favorite episode, and it's our like least listened to episode, so please go listen to it.
Yeah, please go listen to it. It's worth it. It was really funny. And it really got me. I feel like by the end I had a sneaking suspicion that something was happening, but not until like 2 seconds before she told me.
Well, you told me this scheme at work.
Yeah.
That's the first time I even heard about the podcast. I'm like, that sounds pretty cool.
I was like,
yeah. You're like, let me tell you this plan I have. It was pretty good.
All right.
Ghost hunting.
So we went to Gaines Tavern in Walton, Kentucky, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Gaines Tavern. We did not write full notes on this because this was very last minute.
Yeah. And full disclosure, we were out way past all of our bedtimes, so if we're a little slap happy or a little
I'm still
little
sleeping
slow,
now.
Yeah, Josh's like falling
that's
asleep.
why. Yeah. Anywho.
Okay, so the Abner Gaines House is on the National Register of Historic Places. It joined the National Register of Historic Places in 1979. And it was likely built sometime around 1814, although some places say that it was actually built earlier in like 1809-ish. It's the 1800s. We don't have a lot of like great records.
No.
So they built the house. It was likely built with the labor of enslaved people due to the fact that it was the 1800s. And that's kind of how America built everything back then. And it originally was just their house. And it's about halfway between Cincinnati and Lexington. And eventually it was turned into being a tavern, which helped when people were on stagecoaches because it would take like over 30 hours to do Lexington to Cincinnati or vice versa. And so they needed some place to stop, and it was a convenient place. So stagecoaches would stop there, have a nice warm bed, have a place for their horses, and, a drink.
And a drink.
Drink, some cards, some good stuff. Abner Gaines was actually issued a tavern license in 1808, which kind of indicates, again, that the house was standing before 1814.
Yeah.
And the license stated the following, quote, Abner shall not suffer or permit any unlawful gaming in his house, nor suffer any person to tipple or drink more than is necessary, or at any time suffer any disorderly or scandalous behavior to be practiced in this house.
All of the above took place at this
All
house.
of this took place at this
All of the above.
3,000 suicides here.
Okay,
Yeah.
there were 2.
There's a lot.
No.
There's more than that.
There's more than that.
There were 2 suicides by gun.
Okay, I was going to say, there was more suicides than 2.
There's like a
for
lady
sure.
running around on fire.
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk about a little bit
We're
of
like,
bad
wait.
history.
That the slave labor wasn't bad enough.
Okay, the deaths.
Yeah.
This is what I meant.
The darker history.
The history that we didn't expect, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you should expect it. This is this podcast.
Yeah.
But
We are back on our haunted bullshit.
back on our haunted bullshit for anniversary month.
Yes.
We hope you guys enjoyed our listener episode that we had come out earlier. Okay, so here's just a couple of things that happened there. 2 men shot themselves in a bedroom. 2 other men who were fighting over a woman, and one ripped the wig off of the other, and then as a response, he drew a dagger and stabbed him in the heart.
Yep.
Which I think is a bit of an overreaction.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was... Okay, we'll get there. Sorry. We'll get there.
Yeah, so the
I'm
man
so
who
excited
was
to talk about
stabbed
that.
in the heart was William Northcutt,
Yes.
and the man who did the stabbing was Robert Harrison. Interestingly, that'll come up later. I'm saying the names for a reason.
Yep.
There was a 5-year-old child died in December. It was the youngest child of Abner Gaines. Her name was Harriet B. Gaines, and she died at the age of 5 in December. A woman doused herself in coal oil
Yep.
and set herself on fire on the property. My favorite thing about this part is in this article that I'm using. It's nkyviews.com. Shout out to them. They said, quote, her mind was thought to be unbalanced. End quote.
Definitely troubled.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
20 years before she set herself on fire, her father had set himself on fire in the same way.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that could do some serious damage.
I also
to a
would be
child.
troubled.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Several black men were hanged on the property, including Parker Mayo and Charles Smith, one of whom was allegedly accused of assaulting a white woman allegedly. It was
that got thrown
the
around
1800s.
a lot during that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And Charles Smith, who was the other black man who was hung there that we know the name of, I'm sure there were many others, but he was hung for setting fire to Hudson's barn. And robbing their house. And escaping to Indiana.
Not great things. Yeah.
So there was another man who committed suicide on the property. So some of these were in the house, some of them were on the property. Who had been bitten by a dog with rabies.
Ooh.
And he always was threatening suicide because he was terrified of water. That's a side effect of rabies. And ended up committing suicide on the property. I think that's all of the notable deaths.
The house also sits between two train tracks, which we'll kind of get into a little bit later.
God.
But someone did commit suicide on the tracks to the front of the house. And then I heard one of the investigators we were hanging out with last night say that behind the tracks, behind the house on those tracks, there's a bridge somewhere along the way, and somebody hung themselves off of that bridge as well. But like, I don't know how far that one is away from the house, but in front of the house on those tracks, somebody did commit suicide on those too.
Yes, and I don't remember if I said this earlier, but there were 2 men who shot themselves in one of the bedrooms in the house.
Yeah.
So
referred to as the suicide room.
What about Harriet?
I did talk about
She was
Harriet.
sick. And
She was sick.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Yellow fever.
No, we don't know if it was yellow fever.
That's what Dan was saying.
So 2 of Abner's children did die of yellow fever, but that was at sea.
We just don't know. Oh, right.
Harriet died of an unknown illness, but it was December, so it could have been, a lot of things. It could have been pneumonia, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. But 2 kids did die of yellow fever.
Yes.
Harriet's my favorite.
Well, she liked Tiffany.
She did like me.
Yeah.
So this is the part where we talk about what happened last night.
First, Tiffany, how did we come to be at this ghost adventure?
So, I was trying to convince Josh to come be on the podcast for our anniversary month.
Ta-da.
And the minute I messaged him, he incidentally
Well,
got
it
a
just
text
so happens.
message from the head of Bourbon State Paranormal, which
Peep
is...
the merch. Peep the
Peep
merch.
Hold on. I have to,
I don't know
sit
if y'all
up.
can see us. Peep the merch. Pictures on Instagram.
Where they always are.
Yep.
Pictures, the place where we put the pictures.
Yes.
And said, well, actually, we are going ghost hunting on Saturday. You guys should come. And he sent me the details. But we were actually supposed to do a different activity on Saturday. And so we were like, probably not.
That would have been a really long day.
Would have been a really long day.
But it got canceled.
But it got canceled.
Coincidentally.
And so we found ourselves without
Available.
any plans. And
On a
offered
Saturday
to go
night.
ghost hunting.
Yep.
I don't think that's how it went.
That is actually exactly how it went.
No, it is
really
not.
is. It really is.
It
No, for
was, you guys were a little scared. At least one of you were.
real. Me, for sure.
And
Without
then
that.
we finally got you to go.
There is a little bit of that, but we really did have other plans.
That
But
did get canceled.
That did get canceled under mysterious circumstances, which is really strange.
I don't believe this
But-
part. But
It 100% did. But I am glad that we went because it was wild. But first, Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been ghost hunting.
I want to first talk about why.
Why was I so scared to
Yeah.
go?
And the other thing is, it's just shocking to me that you guys have never been ghost investigating.
No. Yeah. Never.
That you've had this podcast and there's no ghost investigating.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm so scared, why I was so scared, and still a little scared, even though now I've done it. I've always been super sensitive to it. I've always had something like that. Everybody who's heard our own personal stories on here knows that I was a cave guide for a couple years in college, and one of those caves is highly haunted.
Soup's haunted.
Soup's haunted,
As we say.
Yeah. I would always have the weird vibe. It was cool. We were talking about last night. You don't always get vibes. I always get a vibe
I get
wherever
no
I'm
vibes.
at. With
No
something
vibes.
like this, I always get vibes. But I don't know if it's because I'm just more sensitive or whatever. But I've always felt way more sensitive to stuff like that. And in that cave, for instance, I always feel like somebody's one step behind me. They're standing really close to me, and I am short. And so I'm used to feeling like if they're behind me, I kind of feel like I need to duck my head because I feel like they're like behind and over me a little. I always feel like that in that cave. I've heard footsteps in that cave. I've heard rocks get thrown. I've seen things move, shadow things, and all of that stuff. So, but knowing that and knowing like I've made it through that, which is cool, but like, you know, they make themselves known. And like all I really need to do, I've learned, is just acknowledge it and just respectfully be like, okay, like I know you're here. I'm gonna do me, you do you, and we will respect each other's space.
We're not gonna mess with
anybody, and I'm not here to disturb you. I'm just here to take these tourists through here. Like, you know, that typically, you know, and Dan, who again is the leader of the group, he and I kind of talked about that last night, that if you just, what energy you give, you receive kind of in a way. So like if you go in with really negative energy, like, oh yeah, we're going to stir it up really good and we're going to do all this stupid stuff. Like somebody.
Television.
Mm-hmm, yeah, that we know. So if you go in like that.
Can you imagine if we knew that guy personally?
Oh my God. No. You know, so what energy you give, you receive. And so, you know, if you just say, okay, we're not here to, and that's what we all said a lot last night. Like, we're just here to hear your story, to tell your story. You know, I feel like it's a little bit better. I'm not going to say that's foolproof because I'm sure it's not, but, so I've always just been scared of what might happen just because I do feel it so physically. And I had some physical like reactions that I have never had before, last night, which was weird, but it was kind of cool. But yeah, that's why I had never gone, because I've always been so like scared of what would happen, just because since I do feel it so strongly, I was worried what might happen. But I made it out alive, and unscathed. I have no marks on me. I was afraid I'd walk away with like, you know, the weird like scratches that people get and whatever.
3 scratches across your chest.
None of that happened, so that was nice. But there was definitely some activity for sure. Okay, now it's your turn.
Oh,
How'd
okay.
you get into
ghost hunting?
A couple years ago, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, Dan started Bourbon State, and he basically just said, hey, do you want to start doing this? I knew him from a friend of mine that's part of his family, and I had no idea what any of this was. I was kind of...
Did you ever watch like the shows and stuff?
No.
So you were brand new.
Yeah, I didn't believe anything like that, didn't really care, but I was like, you know, something different. If you see something, great. If not, you see a lot of really cool architecture. I mean, overall, it just gets you out to see things that you probably never would before, a lot of history. And then there's the chance of seeing something that not many people get to see in their life.
Yeah.
And so that's when it started, and gosh, they do probably 20 or 30, 40 a year.
Wow.
You know, almost every weekend they're doing something usually. And so it's an adventure, and go across the United States and see a lot of things.
Yeah.
And something I would have never done before, nor would I have even thought something is real like this. So,
yeah. Would you say you're a believer now?
I would say I'm closer
to
being a believer.
I think that's fair.
There are things that I can't explain, right? That doesn't mean it actually happened, anything happened, but there's things that you're like, we can try to explain it, but there's no way. So that's where it's like, okay, this is a little strange. Yeah.
And like last night, the symptom I had that was usually, I just keep calling it a symptom. I really don't know. The physical reaction that I had that was familiar to me was feeling really lightheaded and really swimmy and kind of like.
You did that a lot.
I did that a lot. And I did it way more often than I typically ever would, and more intense in certain situations, which was weird. But then something that has never happened to me before was I was shaking a lot.
Violently.
It was cold. So at first I was like, and it first started happening. It was just the three of us in a room, and we'll dive into that a little bit deeper. But we were sitting on a floor, on like a wooden floor in the room, and I was like,
and it was pretty cold.
I'm sitting on this cold floor, like, okay, but I remember thinking, all right, my body is no colder sitting on this floor than I've been this whole night, except like certain parts of me that were closer to the foot of the bed, which again, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but those were colder. But other than that, I just kept trying to think to myself, like, all right, am I shaking out of fear? Am I freaked out? Because it was our first like session. Like, what's going on. But I was shaking, I feel like, too violently for that to actually
You
be
also
it.
were shaking like when you're sitting next to the heater.
Yeah, when we did another session, yeah. And it was the whole group all together, and I was still shaking, and then, I shook on and off the whole night, which was really weird. And I had, like, hand warmers in my pockets and, like, the whole thing, and... Yeah, that was weird.
And there was no heat in this house, just so we
No,
know.
yeah. Everybody's clear.
It's
yeah,
extremely cold that night.
Yeah, it was cold. So the whole, oh my god, colder all of a sudden. Like, yeah, some of us did experience that a little bit, but like we couldn't go off of that because we were all just cold.
It was
cold. It was like 50 degrees at the warmest, I think. So yeah, it was
50.
It was cold.
It was like 30 something.
I know. By the end, it was really cold.
The little temperature thing I had was like 50 when.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah.
So what's the most spooky place that you've been?
Or the place that made you believe the most, I guess.
Or made you a little less skeptical, or whatever. However you want to put it.
How you guys put this?
The
I
most
have
notable.
two different answers
Okay.
now.
Okay, let's go.
What made me believe the most is different than what was the spookiest.
Okay.
And so believe the most was probably Octagon. And
What is that? And where is that? I don't know what it was.
I cannot remember anything
Okay, it's
about
fine.
Octagon.
Tiffany.
It's like
You can't remember any of it?
The
It was
Civil
so scary.
War place.
Okay.
I can't.
Oh, was that
remember.
the one you guys were like out in the middle of this field?
No, that's Perryville.
Oh. Also scary.
Yeah, she's looking it up. But basically, at Octagon, there was a room that you have like a little ball that lights up. If anyone touches it, gets close to it. And we had not had any activity for the night. It was kind of boring, honestly. And then we get to about to wrap up. And I'm just playing around at this point. I say, okay, well, if you want Dan to leave the room, light the ball up. And it immediately lit it up. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, so then we stay a lot longer than we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan comes back in and we do it again. And I was like, do you want Dan to stay out of this room? It lights it up immediately. Like, it had not lit up this thing all night until we start talking about Dan being in this room. And so
like, what the heck?
now it's just a thing to make sure. I always ask the ghost, do you want Dan to leave the room? Because that's cool.
Although last night that also got you kicked out of the room.
It got all the males kicked out of the room at one point.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, fine, okay.
The Wikipedia page on the Octagon House says it was built by Andrew Jackson Caldwell in 1847 for a new distinctive family home. It was also a hospital for both Confederate and Union soldiers, doubled as a hideout for Confederate troops on the run, and then it was a couple of various things since there. Also, there's a slave cemetery and historic gardens on the grounds.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's the Wikipedia.
That's good enough. Civil War.
Freaky.
Yeah.
Spookiest would be Waverly, so the tuberculosis hospital.
I'm not going. All of y'all are like, oh, Sav should go to Waverly.
I don't know. Sal's getting into ghost hunting now, and it's only a matter of time before she ends up at Waverly.
Yeah.
Waverly is very spooky. I mean, you go in there and you just feel, even though I don't do this vibe thing very often, it's just, this is the only place that I felt very uneasy.
It's the only place that he's gotten a vibe, Tiffany.
Like,
I'm not going.
It's extremely uneasy feeling. You feel like something's watching you. I've never felt like that before.
Yeah.
We'll start with the historic tour at Waverly
In the middle of the day.
up.
Yeah,
at like 2
that's a
o'clock
good
in the
idea.
afternoon.
Do it during the daylight.
With holy water in my back pocket.
I can get you some. Don't worry.
Yeah, so
Salt.
that was a crazy place. I mean, it just feels weird. You see things that you don't know if it's real or not. You see shadows a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could explain them or not, but it
Shadow
just
people
feels...
is like one of the most notorious things about Waverly.
And then going down the chute where they would take, down to the morgue. So you go down this very long chute, and at the end there was a morgue that they would take all the bodies.
Yep.
And walking down there, I walked all the way down, and we just sat there for a while, and it just feels really, really uneasy again.
Like
It just
heavy.
It's like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Ooh, no.
Waverly's
I wouldn't even
not a
make
great
it
place.
down there. No. And Dan asked me, like, okay, so do you guys think you'll do this again? I was like, yeah, probably. Like, yeah, but not to Waverly. And he said, why not Waverly? Like, he heard me say it all night that I would not go to Waverly, so he finally was like, why not Waverly? And so I explained again, like,
She knows too much about Waverly.
I know too
is the
much,
problem.
and I know too much. I know too many people who have been and got the shit scared out of him, and I know I react too physically to stuff like that I'm worried about what would happen to me.
It might amplify for you.
It would amplify it, yeah, for sure, because it was so amplified just last night that I can't even imagine somewhere like Waverly how much more intense it would be for me. So I would just worry about my own safety. Not so much I'm worried I'll see something. I know I'll see something if I go. I know we'll experience stuff if we go. That's not so much what I'm freaked out about.
What if we go to Waverly and it's like the most
and literally
boring
nothing
thing
happens? I would be like, they are literally just doing this to be like, just
mocking you. Like,
yeah. They're just hiding in the shadows. Like, well, look at this girl. She was so scared to be here. Now look. Now she's almost disappointed. Nothing. Yeah, no. But then Dan, again, was really wise and said, you go in respectfully. Most of the time, it's going to be returned, and obviously you can't say that for every spirit. They're not always very kind and very, very, willing to communicate or something like that. But, yeah.
But be nice to ghosts.
Yeah, be nice to ghosts.
Waverly, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't think you can be respectful enough.
Josh, that's not how we get her to Waverly.
You're not getting her to Waverly anyway.
It's just a negative feeling the whole time. It's like someone doesn't want you there.
Yeah, and I've just heard that way too much, that there's just someone or something does not want you there enough to let it be known that they don't want you
But
there.
we are going in August, so you can still come.
I'll be very pregnant then, so I will be able to.
Yeah. I would not recommend. Yeah. Whenever she was like, hey, Josh invited us to go ghost hunting, I didn't immediately say no, but I've been working a stupid amount of overtime, so I was like, just full disclosure, asking me to do anything extra right now just is not, during work hours is not a good idea. But I did agree to think about it. And then when we talked about it again, or maybe it was later on in that same conversation, I was like, are you sure this is a good idea? Because you're pregnant. Like, are you sure? Not even so much like the physical aspect of it, but just the fact you're pregnant. Like, are you sure you want to subject yourself to something like this?
I mean, I had looked into the history enough to know that, like, it wasn't, like, demonic stuff. That it wasn't, like, haunted because somebody had used a Ouija board or something.
Yeah.
Like, it was mostly just people died there.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really worried about that.
Yeah. But that was my very first thought, was that, and then also, like, her first trimester has been torture on her, and I was like, listen, I don't feel like watching you be miserable for an entire night. Like, I love you, and I don't want that for you. So, like, it's not that I don't want to deal with it.
I finally hit the part of pregnancy where I don't feel like I'm dying all of the time.
Yeah.
So I guess we should now transition into talking about what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So our first session, actually all of the sessions where something really happened, we're
for
in the
guys.
same bedroom.
For us.
We're in the same room.
Which was...
there was a room, it was set up like a child's room.
With two twin beds.
With two twin beds. Each bed had a Raggedy Ann doll on it. And,
oh my God.
We'll throw a photo up on the Instagram.
I don't have a photo of it, do you?
I have one.
Okay.
Dan
I was like,
yeah,
and Dan posted a bunch
so
too.
you can see. And it's actually really funny. I took a video because I was in that room by myself when we were just doing like the walkthrough during the daylight.
Yeah.
And I walked in and I was like, oh, I don't really like this room. And then that's the
room.
first room we went into.
It was a great room, like, for activity, and it was a good room.
Yes.
Like, a lot happened for us in there. But yeah, I did not like those Raggedy Ann ones. And, like, the first session is the only one where I was, like, scared at all. But, again, it was the very first session. My very first session at all, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our first time ever talking to a ghost.
Yeah, we kept calling it the kids' room, and the children's room.
Harriet's room.
Harriet's room.
That's what I called it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Josh sat between the two twin beds.
Because he
Oh,
wanted...
that was creepy.
That was not a good idea.
I just thought something was going to grab me.
Yeah, and it's important to know, in this room, so it was a large bedroom, and then there was a doorway for a bathroom, and then a doorway for, like, a nursery type, like a smaller room.
That's how it was set up, yeah.
Yeah, and so I walked in between the two of you, and so Josh wanted to sit between the two beds, and then Tiffany sat down on the floor, not directly in front of the nursery bed doorway. And, like, I stopped and I, like, stood in that doorway. And I was like, oh, I'll just stand. Like, I'll just kind of hang out right here. And then having my back to two open doorways that were dark, I was like, no. It just was an instant no. I just
That'll be
felt
a no for me,
very
though.
uncomfortable. So I sat myself right on the floor, right between Tiffany and this, like, armoire type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I want my back to a wall, and I don't want to be exposed on any sides except right in front of me.
I was very exposed.
You were.
Josh was just
You
like,
sat
come
down,
to
and
me.
I was like, he's going for it. All right.
He's done this before.
He's done this.
This
Well-
was our first time.
Yeah. And then, so Josh had, and let's do a really quick recap of what equipment we used, what it does, so that when they hear us say it, then they'll know what that means.
Okay.
So Josh had, I always want to call it a spirit box. Is that what you guys called it?
Yeah, I had a spirit box,
Okay.
yeah.
So he had the spirit box. It goes through various frequencies. Again, if you've seen any Ghost Adventures or anything like that, you've seen them use this.
It sounds like this.
Yeah, it goes through all different kinds of frequencies, and then words can come through, and spirits can manipulate it to communicate. So he had headphones on for it, so it was dead silent to Tiffany and I,
Yeah.
which was almost worse a little bit.
It was just, and anytime he heard a word, he would just say it so that we would know, because he couldn't hear the questions we were asking because he had headphones on with radio static going on, basically.
Yeah, so he couldn't fuck with us and say
Yeah.
something to like, yeah. So that's important to know.
I would only say words that I could clearly understand.
Yeah.
And then I had a live recorder. So it's basically just like a tape recorder with headphones plugged in. The idea is that if we got an EVP through the recorder, I could hear it live as opposed to having to listen to it back to it. But we might have also gotten some stuff that I couldn't like perceive.
Yeah, and they kept calling it loud listening, which I liked because it was like amplified.
Yeah. Right,
And I didn't have anything, so I just had me and my
So just sitting
human, my human. I
Tuning
always want to
fork.
say K2 like meters, what I kind of felt like. And another piece that really worked well for us was
Yes.
the K2 meter. The best way I can describe it is if anything manipulates like the energy around it or kind of electrical fields around it, it would light up. So there were several different lights. There was like 2 green, a couple of orange, and then some red, you know. So like the more intense, the more lights would
Yeah,
light
the
up
more
and the
energy.
darker it would be. Yeah. So we used that a lot.
We
And there was a REM pod, but nothing happened with it all
nothing
night long.
happened with the REM pod.
Yeah, a REM pod is basically a box or, you know, a piece of equipment where there's lots of different lights in it. If you wave your hand across it or anything manipulates around it, it lights up, it makes a sound, but literally nothing came through on that, which I thought was funny. I don't know what the one that was green and red, I don't know what that
It
one's
was.
called.
I don't know what it was called, but they gave
It was
it
the
to me
temperature.
because it measured the temperature, and then you could also like make
yeah.
it go off with like
I forgot the name of that
like
one.
electromagnetic energy because they said like, oh, do you have your phone
like
or
any
something?
electronics.
And like we even tried like.
I took her phone.
Yeah, she
for
took
a while.
my phone and she like we tried like my phone wouldn't set it off. I
Nothing
was like
set it
putting
off.
my phone on it and it
None
wasn't
of our
setting it off.
electronics set it off. The K2 didn't set it off. Nothing set it off.
Yeah,
It
so
was so crazy.
it
But
went
it went
off
off.
much.
It went off, but we couldn't.
get it to go off because
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, if you have your phone, like sometimes that'll mess with it. But
And so
like
she
my
handed it
phone,
to
I was
me.
like putting my phone on it to try to mess with it, and it like was not working.
And Christy even cycled it. Like she turned it completely off and turned it back on. It
Yeah.
still
This
wasn't.
was in another session.
Yeah, this was,
This
is
like
like
a different
over- yeah.
session.
Yeah.
I'm just going through all the,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all the
that we
equipment.
used.
And that was about it, right?
That we actually used. There was the tattletale, which basically goes off if anybody goes near it.
Like
and
vibrations
makes a terrible noise.
We had cameras set up around the whole house.
Oh,
Yeah. The tattletale only went off when it was one of our fault. Like,
Yeah.
it did not. As
Yes.
When we were there, we left before anybody else. So when we were there, it didn't go off, like,
Yeah.
organically.
We
Did
had
it
to
at any
leave-
point?
Not that
Not
I
that you know of?
no.
Okay. So, yeah. But people set it off all the time, and we all went, because it was a super high-pitched,
Noise.
like, noise. It was awful.
Yeah. And that's pretty much
That's about it.
everything we used in our sessions.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
So
now
first-
you know what we use.
What we're talking
There was a
about.
heat
talking
sensor
about.
too. That's the only other thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And you had that for a while. That was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. All right.
So our first session, again, all the sessions that Sav and I were in that we got like really good responses, we were in the kids' room that we described earlier.
Yeah.
So our first session, again, we're in there. Sav's between me and an armoire. Josh is out in the open
In the
between
middle
the
of
beds.
the room.
And, you know, this is our first time, so we didn't really know what we were doing.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what to say.
We're just like talking
what do
into
we-
the ether.
Yeah.
Josh
We
gave
felt
us
so
some pointers.
awkward. Yeah.
But then we started getting responses through the spirit box to questions.
Yeah.
I can't remember the first thing.
The first
Was
word
it
was
hurt?
hurt.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
It was.
It was hurt. And then we said, we're not here to hurt you.
Yeah.
We have some toys. Because we were trying to talk to Harriet, the little
Yeah.
girl. And you're like, we brought some toys that you can play with if you want.
We had the ball that would light up, jacks, marbles, teddy
Like
bear.
a flower that you could
Like a pinwheel kind of
pinwheel
thing.
flower, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Josh, we say that, and Josh says participate. So participate came through
Yeah.
the spirit box.
Yeah. And then these are not in quick succession either. There was like
No.
a good gap between each one of these. And we're like, okay, yep, we're here to participate with you. We're here
You can play
to talk
with
to you.
the
You can play with
toys.
them.
You can participate.
And then we got flood, which was weird.
Now, flood, did you go into the other rooms a whole lot? There is so much water damage.
There is a lot of water damage.
I did not know that until
I
later
did
on. I
notice
was
the
like,
water
so I
damage.
started taking pictures.
Yeah.
That there was something here when there was a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I didn't know what flood meant.
Yeah, we
at
didn't
first,
either.
especially at that time. I was like, flood? What's that mean?
Yeah.
But then you
We're
look
like,
around, there's like so much torn up because of water.
Yeah, there's a lot of water damage. It has definitely kind of, like I just think it's funny because I know that they did a lot of like repairs to it and now it's kind of like fallen back into disarray, which is strange. But yeah, and so then
We talked for just a little bit.
around flood is when I started shaking. Just a good like marker for us. Like around then is when I started shaking. It was pretty light, kind of trembly, just kind of like I thought I was cold at that point.
And as kind of a joke, because Josh had told us about telling, being like,
if you
want Dan to leave, then light this up. So we said, if you're making, or if you could stop making Saf cold.
Can you help her be warm? I think, or like, can you help make
it was warm? Like something about like stopping her being cold or stopping her shaking or something, helping her warm up,
it got
something
worse
like that.
Yeah.
And I said, and then almost immediately Josh got, not yet.
Yeah, which was freaky. And
see,
then I started.
I don't even know this part.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I'm not hearing them.
Yeah, because he has the headphones on the whole time.
Yeah, and so we're like talking, and he's like responding as he's hearing through the headphones, but he doesn't know what we're saying, so he's kind of acting like a weird intermediary.
Yeah. And so I just start shaking worse and worse. And then I asked him, I'm like, can you feel me?
Yeah, her knee was touching my knee because we're like sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor.
And so I was like, and it would kind of rattle through me like waves. Like it would just kind of like hit me out of nowhere. And I would just I just kept shaking. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm not cold enough for this type of like violent shaking. This I remember because we were sitting, crisscrossed. My left leg, my left knee, as close as I was, because I was kind of this weird angle, because I like shoved myself in this corner because I was terrified. So I was like
in the corner
of the thing. So the part of me that was closest to the foot of the bed on that side of the room was really cold. The rest of me was okay, but like whatever was close enough to that bed was a lot colder. And then I think maybe you like took your headphone off for like a second, and I said I just keep shaking. And then you said something, and we asked, like, can you help her be warm or whatever? I said, not yet. And then you got, there's another.
Well, that was, so we had asked a couple more questions, and we didn't get anything. We weren't getting anything. And she was still shaking violently.
I was shaking violently. It was ridiculous.
And so we said, is that you that we're talking to that's making Savannah shake? Yeah. And that's when we got, there's another.
And I was like, oh my God.
And it was so, like... Because obviously, like, you're kind of trying to logic your way out of this. Yes. But with the fact that he couldn't hear what we were saying, and I, like, had the headphones on at one point, and you cannot hear anything unless you, like, turn the volume way down. But we had it all the way up.
And remember that you're listening to radio frequencies.
Yeah.
So right, some of these words don't usually come up very often, right? Like, there's another.
Yeah. And participate.
Yeah.
Like, so we got there's another, and then,
I was ready to nope right out of there, but Tiffany wouldn't let me. Yeah, she
noped
she like
after
kept
the
asking.
Next
one.
Yeah.
So the next question that we asked was, are there a lot of you in here with us?
Many others.
And at that point, we were both like, I would like to
I would like to leave now.
And keep in mind, it's like 9:30 at this point.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even that late. We just started.
Yeah. And I didn't stop shaking until we got completely out of there. I don't think I stopped shaking until we like got to at least to the stairs. And then I quit shaking.
Yeah.
And that was wild.
Yeah, and we
weird.
were like...
I didn't get very swimmy in there, though. I did get a little bit of lightheaded, but I just kind of mentioned it, but it wasn't as intense as it was like later into the night. But the shaking was weird. That was weird. I've never done that before.
And obviously, this is our first time, so we're like, is this normal? Does this happen
Am
all
I
the time?
supposed to be shaking?
Do you always, like, is it this fast? Like, you just go in and start asking questions, and it's like, oh, yeah, there's a bunch of us in here.
No.
Oh, yeah, there's tons of us here.
Sometimes you go and get nothing, so, like...
Yeah. That was wild.
It's pretty interesting that much happened right away.
Yeah.
And, so while in between our 2 questions while Sav was shaking, so those last 2 questions, is the only time I had the first time I had something physical happen because it felt my lap got really cold. Yeah. As if, I don't know, like a small child had sat in it.
Like a 5-year-old?
Like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And we have a theory that the 5-year-old was most comfortable with me because I was the only mom.
She's the only unique one.
Yeah. And we had some stuff happen later where it was, again, my lap was causing something to trigger.
Yeah. And she sat on the floor the whole time, every time we would do anything.
Yeah.
I tried different positions. Like, I would sit on something, I would sit in the floor, I would stand, because I was like, okay, is it me, like, holding myself upright, sitting crisscross on the floor? Is that why I'm shaking? Like, am I just so out of shape that I'm shaking because I'm holding myself up? Thankfully, that was not it. But, yeah, it was weird. But, yeah, she was the only one who has? No, because Dan and Christian, right? They're father and son, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But she's pregnant.
But she's pregnant.
Actively pregnant.
Yeah, which was really cool.
I was going to say, I'm the only mom. Like, there was a dad there, but I'm the only mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what kid doesn't love getting into their mom's life?
We need to back up here for a second.
What?
Right when we got there, you saw something.
Oh, I forgot.
You did!
That was really cool.
That was!
So we had gotten there and we had walked around a little bit. We had filmed, Sav and I had filmed a little bit. I meant to film more throughout the night, but there was so much going on.
There was so much happening.
Happen.
Yeah.
So we have just some stuff from right when we got there.
Yeah.
And then we were like, oh, we need food because it's dinner time. Yeah. So we ran to get Taco Bell Wendy's like we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. And we come back and we're walking into the house and I saw a woman in the window. And I double took because I kind of in my brain I was like, oh, it must be one of our people. But when
she stopped so fast,
I stopped and then I backed up a little bit to look again, and she was still there. And it was an older woman, and she was wearing a dark blue dress with one of those big white collars.
You could detail her so well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I couldn't tell you what her face. I could tell she was old. And I could tell you, her dress was blue, and she had this white collar on, and then it was just gone.
There were paintings of Abner Gaines and his wife in the room that she saw in the window. She couldn't see the paintings, though, because the paintings were on the wall that we were facing, so there's no way she saw it. There was no way she saw a reflection.
Yeah,
because it wasn't lined up well enough.
It was on the first floor, right side?
Mm-hmm.
When you're
facing. If you're facing.
Yeah, the right window, right to the right of the door.
Yeah. And that painting of the woman was further over.
Yeah, and it's on it's on that wall.
And it's on the wall, so there's no way.
So we went in, and I told Savannah, and I was like, that was really weird. And we went in, and I go to the room to see. I was like, maybe there's a doll
mannequin.
Or a mannequin. Yeah. There's a bunch of mannequins and dolls and stuff in the house. I was that I just didn't notice before. And I went in, and when I saw the painting of the woman, it was the exact same kind of collar that she had on is what I saw in the window.
And you hadn't seen that before, right?
I had probably seen it because I'd glanced.
We walked through the house,
but
yeah. But I walked in there behind her, and she was like, "That's what she was wearing. That's the collar."
Yeah,
that's insane.
But there was nothing. I was there's nothing in here that could have made me see that was a
there
trick.
wasn't a mirror on the opposite wall or anything.
Yeah, there wasn't any of the mannequins in that room. It was just a couch.
Yeah.
So
that was wild.
It was super wild.
And people, from what little I remember there's a Ghost Adventures episode, Ghost Hunters episode of it, and what little I remember, because we haven't watched the whole thing, probably should have, but we went into this woefully unprepared. But that made it kind of better, though. That made it better, I think. But I heard that people see a little girl, so probably Harriet, and then they see an older gentleman on one of the upper floors. But I didn't hear anything about an older woman.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about anybody seeing an older woman, but then it's interesting because later we think we were talking to an older woman.
Yeah, we were talking to a woman who had been married at least.
Yeah.
But we never got a name, which was weird. Yeah. So, our next session, we left the kids' room after hearing many others, and we noped right out of there.
We said, I need a break.
We went downstairs, and everybody kind of converged at the same time. That was kind of cool. We all just kind of emerged out of, because at that point, we had all kind of broken up to do different sections, places. We all kind of ended up back in, I don't really know what to call that. The headquarters,
yeah,
the main room that we were in, where the monitor was set up with all the cameras and everything. And Dan was like, do we want to do do we all want to do one like right here? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes, please. I would like to have as many people around me as possible right now. And so then we still sat on the floor, but we were on a rug, which is important for me because it wasn't because I was cold. And I just had to keep
and
logically
we were right
my
by
way.
the heater.
We were beside the space heater.
Like a little propane heater.
Yeah. And I still shook like a freaking leaf the whole time.
And then our session got abruptly interrupted because there was a truck outside.
Yeah, somebody pulled up outside. So the house is on like a dead end. Like there's nowhere else for you to go. It's at the very last structure. And everybody like stops what they're doing and we watch it park outside. And Dan just takes off to the back of the house.
I got a camera out there.
He's like, I've got a camera out there. And he just like takes off out there. And I'm like, listen, yeah, ad equipment is so expensive, but is it worth your life?
I start following him out there,
they
too.
all
did.
went.
All the
Sam and I
guys
are the
left.
only ones
We're the
left
only people inside.
Everybody else goes outside.
I mean,
And
because I don't want Dan to die.
No, but like, do all of you need to?
Yeah, I'd
There's
rather go
strength
with
in
Dan.
numbers.
I was watching the feed because Dan stopped right in front of the camera, which was perfect because I could see his face. And I was like, all right, he's just conversing. It doesn't look like
And there's this dog, like, crazily yapping at us,
barking,
like going to kill us.
Yeah, that was scary. But Dan's talking to whoever behind the camera, but he's in front of it. And I see him start laughing, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I remember being so relieved whenever I saw his body language change from, like, defense to, like, okay, everything's cool. And I was like, okay, cool. But, yeah, we were the only people inside.
Like, he brought his guard dog with him, that guy.
Was that this guy that
He was in the truck, and he was like, that was a mean dog.
Yeah.
And then next time when he came back, he didn't have the dog. So he brought that dog for a reason.
For a reason.
I mean...
Yeah, and he comes back with this lady and her daughter, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Her daughter.
Yeah, and they just show up again, like 10 minutes later, maybe?
He's like, yeah.
Yeah, and they show up again, and I'm like, okay, listen, like, we were afraid, like, what if that guy's a murderer coming to get us? But then now you're coming back.
What if
and
we
we're like,
were
what
murderers?
if we were the bad guys? Like, what why would you come
back?
back?
You in?
Yeah, and then so they just come in.
Willingly just...
They just came right back, and they just
into
came in.
This okay,
haunted
we
house.
forgot to talk about this. The locals call this the Kentucky Horror House.
Yeah.
And you're just walking in with some strangers?
Yeah. What the hell?
Well, let's be clear that this is the first time this has ever happened.
Yes, but like...
Okay.
It was apparently a unique night, because apparently the spirit box never does anything
never
for
goes
you guys.
off. Yeah.
Only one other time at Octagon, yeah. So it usually doesn't go off, and then there's definitely not visitors usually.
Yeah. No, nobody crashes.
There aren't really tourists coming by, asking what you're doing.
Yeah, so yeah,
so
that was
interrupted
weird.
that session.
Yeah, before it really got a chance to
really do anything.
Yeah. And the reason we were doing that one was because we thought that might be what they called the ballroom, which is where the guys fought over the girl and all of that, and one guy got stabbed. We were trying to tap into that, but that didn't really... Yeah. Nothing really came through on that.
And then I said something about, I think a guy died in the bathtub up there.
Oh my gosh, and Dan was like, I gotta go see
lay
that.
in that bathtub. So we all go back, and it's...
all 7 of us go upstairs.
He takes his shoes off.
To be respectful.
And he goes
it wasn't all 7 of us.
Joel, right.
Joel stayed downstairs, and Jen... Oh, was Jen there? Jen wasn't there.
Was she not?
No.
Okay, no, she didn't come up until later. So 5 of us.
Weren't there 8 of us total?
There's 8.
Okay.
So just say 6 of us.
6 of us.
Whatever. Yeah.
Oh, there were
several
6
of us. Yep.
Plastic.
Great.
And so he's like, I'm gonna get in that bathtub.
And there were
also,
3
I don't think
women
somebody
and
actually...
3 men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't actually know if anybody died in that bathtub. I just remembered, like,
someone
in
died
the
in the
episode,
bathroom.
they, like, showed a shot of the bathtub while talking about somebody dying, and I conflated the two in my brain.
But Dan literally said, I've got to go investigate that.
I've got to go in that tub.
He literally said, I've got to go investigate that. I'm getting in the tub. And, like, left. And we were like, I was like, Dan, maybe don't. And then Christy's like, it's now a bad time to tell you that we get into the body trays at Waverly. Yes. And I was like, I mean...
I'm really not going
I'm not surprised about that at all, but, like, maybe don't tell me that when Dan's getting into a bathtub that looks like it might fall out from underneath him.
It looked terrible.
It did. So Dan was in the bathtub. Christy was sitting on the edge of it. Like, there's this, like, wooden frame. Well, yeah, he was in it with his shoes off.
For respect.
Christy was sitting there. Tiffany was sitting kind of just inside the doorway on the floor.
Yeah.
I was standing beside the open door.
In that room.
Yeah, I did not want to be in there either. I was standing beside the open door, Josh was by the sink, and then Christian was kind of like in front of the window between the bathtub and the sink. So we were just all crammed in here in this tiny room. And it kind of, it got a little wild.
Yeah, and so we were talking, we were asking questions, we weren't really getting anything. And then I said, my lap got really cold. And they handed me that little temperature meter that we were talking about earlier that we don't know the name of. And they were like, put this on your lap. You can watch it and see if the temperature drops the next time that your lap gets cold. Mm-hmm. And
not expecting it to fully go off, just expecting to watch the temperature thing change.
Yeah. And that's when we started getting responses.
Yeah. I can't remember what Christy said she heard. I swear this whole night is like a blur.
It's kind of a blur. I wish we had
That's the problem.
The recordings.
I wish we did. Christy was listening to the spirit box, and she definitely got some stuff back. But then something led us to say, I think you jokingly said, "Do you want Dan to leave?"
I did say
that.
Yeah.
And then it flickered a little bit.
It has like a green screen, and it like went red really quickly.
Yeah. And then I think
goes,
you
did
said,
you move?
Yeah, we were all like...
And I'm like,
she had her hands up here. I was like, do this again.
Yeah.
Try to move
I was
your hands around.
Yeah.
Like, nothing I was doing was making it go off. And so I go back to my sitting position, so my hands were like behind my butt.
And I take her phone. I have her phone, so it's nowhere near, shouldn't be messing with it.
Yeah.
And then somebody is led off to say, like, do you want the men to leave? Mm-hmm. And it starts flat, it like went off again, and we were like, okay, bye guys.
Which was bullshit, because I was in the first session.
Yeah.
And it was fine. So I left anyway. But...
Yeah, so they all left, and then we had the K2, was like up on this like ledge, and then we didn't get anything else out of the one with the red and green. We didn't get anything else out of that.
Once it got the guys out, that stopped going off, but it went off a bunch leading up to that.
Yeah. And then Christy didn't stop getting stuff from the spirit box. Like, she kept getting stuff. And the K2 started manipulating after that.
Yeah, and so it was
really cool.
As Christy would get words in the spirit box, the K2 meter would go. So it was like they were confirming each other.
Yeah. And then most of the time I was getting like waves of feeling kind of woozy. Yeah. So eventually we get something back that says wife. That was kind of the first... Well,
before that, we figured out we were talking to somebody named Harrison.
Yes. Was that first? Or was it wife
I think we got Harrison first, and then we got wife. Because we were like, and Harrison.
She got hurt, which was one of the second times.
Which she wasn't in the session with us the first time, and I said pain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which was interesting.
Yeah, it was cool. So we kind of just kept working with what we were getting, and then we kept asking, what's your name? Like, we wanted to know who it was that was connecting with us, and she was like, I swear I heard Harrison. And we just kind of look at each other, because just the three of us in the room now, so we just look at each other, and she's like, Harrison, I think, is one of the ones that was involved in the duel. We couldn't remember in the moment who...
And I can just confirm, Harrison is the one who stabbed the other guy. And I have a little fun fact for us as we go through this, because I know what's coming, because I was there. And I found something in my research today.
No, by all means, please.
So when, we confirm, she's like, Harrison, is that your name? And the K2 meter lights up as like a confirmation.
And then didn't I get dizzy at that too?
Yeah. And so it was all like,
everything.
Savannah, our like human tuning fork over here. Well, she would say like, I feel lightheaded. And then we'd get something on the spirit box, and then the K2 meter would go off. Like, it was all, like, in succession.
I kept voicing it, and I felt really annoying, because I kept saying, I just got really dizzy. But I just thought it was important, like, for people to know that it's, like, something, I felt like it always came beforehand, so it's, like, something's coming, because I just got really dizzy.
Yeah, it
was weird. Weird.
So,
it was like the pre-trimmer, like the, And then the, K2 and the spirit box were like the aftershock. It was pretty cool.
And this is all new to me.
Yeah, this is our
I
first
wasn't
time.
there.
Kicked out of the room.
Yeah, you got kicked out.
You got kicked out. Oh, what? Also, right when we were like, did something about like we asked like, why did you want the men to leave? And they said we got trustworthy, and we're like, oh, or do you not think men are trustworthy?
It was crazy. Yeah, it was wild.
And so we.
And
figure out it's Harrison.
Yeah. And when she said, or Christy, I think, said, did you want the men to leave because men aren't trustworthy? Was that you or Christy?
One of us said it.
Somebody said that. It flickered. Like, the K2 flickered.
Yeah.
Like, as if to be like, yup, like, that's it. And I was like, okay.
Well,
ooh,
sorry, guys.
Sorry.
But then, they said we got wife through the spirit box. And so we were talking about that.
Like,
and
we're all wives.
All the women left in the room were wives.
Yeah, we were all married.
And so we said that, and then Christy was like,
how long were you married?
No, she's like, I think we got 2 years. Were you married for 2 years? And we didn't get anything on that. Well, Harrison, the guy involved in the stabbing, died 2 years after the stabbing.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it was 2 years until I was like Googling, and I was like, it's interesting that we got both Harrison.
Yeah, and 2
years. Because at the time, we were trying to figure out, like, is it an anniversary? Savannah had actually been married for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, like, that's interesting. And for a while, it was only answering questions from Savannah.
Yeah, I would say, like, Christy would say something, and I would say basically the same thing, like, a few minutes later. Like, with different words, but trying to, like, keep things moving. And then it would respond almost immediately, which was really
and
weird.
We were like, and you said, do you like when I ask questions? And it flashed.
It lit up almost the most that it lit up the whole night. Like, it went over halfway, which it didn't do very much.
Yeah.
Which was weird. And then Christy said, does Savannah remind you of your wife, or, like, remind you of someone? And didn't she get something to the affirmative? I don't really know. She got something in the spirit box. And then it lit up, and I got the most dizzy and lightheaded that I have ever gotten in a situation like this. And I, like, doubled over for a second. Like, it was intense. It freaked me out. And I was like, okay, I get that you like talking to me, but, like, can I not feel like that, please? And that was awful. It was really freaky.
I'd love to feel this. Like, I don't.
Oh my gosh, that's the weirdest
I don't know how
thing.
this feels.
I don't feel anything.
When the best way I can describe it is, when, like, maybe it's been a little bit too long since you've eaten or something like that, so your blood sugar is a little bit low, which is not at all what was going on with me.
We went and got dinner.
We had eaten, yeah. But, so take that, and then, like, when you're a little kid and you do really stupid stuff because it gives you, like, a head rush. So, like, you're, like, bent over, like, maybe you're, like, hanging off the back side of the couch, and you're upside down, and you swing up really fast, and you're like, whoa,
Okay.
That's kind of what it feels like.
But she's just sitting
there. But I'm just standing there doing nothing, and then I just get this, like wave. And then that was what it felt like for the worst one. And then the other ones, when I'd just be like, I just got lightheaded, would be kind of like, you could feel your blood pressure drop, your blood sugar drop a minute. You're just kind of like, ooh, okay. Like, it's just kind of, it's not quite as intense, but it's similar in feeling. That's the best way that I can describe it. Like, the stupid things you do as a kid to get a major head rush. That's kind of what it felt like. Yeah.
So,
and maybe that was just me.
So while we were in there, did anything happen? Like, once you guys all left, did, like, you go investigate somewhere and anything happen?
Nothing happened. I mean,
we were the
ghosts like the women.
They're like the ladies.
I mean, at that point in time, nothing happened. Like,
and Christy got her name in the spirit box.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, like, no reason.
Multiple times, she said, right?
Yeah, and she would get it, and very closely after it would be help.
And again, I feel like Christy's hard to...
It's hard to place.
Like, I mean, hard to figure out that it comes on the radio many times in a row.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, and then nobody in the 1800s would have a reason to say Christy unless they knew that was her name.
Yeah, because we introduced
Christy's
ourselves
not
to
really wasn't really a common name, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah, so we did introduce ourselves, like, at the beginning of the session. But yeah, it was wild. But yeah, that K2, I felt like we were in there forever.
You were.
Were we?
You were.
We were in there forever, but we kept getting things. Oh, and one of the coolest things, we started to leave, because at the very beginning, we really weren't getting much of anything. And we talked, and Chrissy didn't get anything. I didn't feel anything. Like, we're just kind of hanging out. We were like, okay, well, we're going to head back downstairs with our friends, but, we can come back later. But we're going to go ahead and head down. And she went to, like, pick up the K2, but she hadn't touched it, and she didn't have any electronics in her hand, and it went off.
And so she was like, pulls her hand back and is like, do you not want us to leave?
And then it went off again.
Yeah.
And we were like,
okay, I guess we'll stay.
We'll stay. Also, at one point in the session, we got arm.
Oh, right. I
Yeah.
forgot. We got pain.
Yeah, we got pain.
And then when we got pain, I felt pain in my left arm. And because Christy
She
was like
didn't
asking
voice that,
questions. And so I just said, like in a lull, like, because my arm was still hurting. I was like, did you have pain in your arm? And we got a response.
Yeah, and I was like, do you feel something?
I was
She
like-
didn't say my arm hurts, like, or anything.
Yeah, until like after we had gotten it confirmed, I was like, it was really weird. My arm hurt once we got the word pain.
And it's really important to know that she didn't say which one at the time. She just said, yeah, my arm hurt.
And that comes into play later.
And Christy also got kitchen
Oh, yeah.
at one point, and fast forward, during the break, Christy and I went into the kitchen because she was like, I just have to see something. And I was like, me too. And I just walked in there
And
with
I was
her.
like, I'm going to
You're
stay
like, I'm staying in
here.
here. And we walked in there, and she had the spirit box on and the headphones on. And I was like, I'm just going to walk around just to see if I feel anything. Because I didn't feel anything when we were in there earlier in the day.
Because we
I
had
walked
eaten
in there.
in the
We'd
kitchen.
eaten in there. And I walked around, and I went to go around one side of, there was like this big like counter, basically an island in the middle. I went to walk around it, and I stopped like dead in my tracks because I got really woozy again. And I looked at her, and I was like, I just got dizzy. And I walked back toward her, and we were trying to say, we didn't really get anything, but my arm started, like, it didn't really hurt. It felt kind of like I was getting bitten by something, like a bug bite kind of thing. And I said, like, was it your left arm? And Tiffany heard me say that. And in the car on our way back, she was like, I didn't tell you this, but, like, it was my left arm, too. Like, we did not talk about it. It was wild. We didn't get anything, though, in the kitchen, but other than my arm started hurting. Which was weird.
Weirdly the same arm.
The same arm. Right above the elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird.
So, while we were in there, nothing happened with you guys? Anywhere?
Not really. Like, I mean, I wish I was up there with you guys. Went down, watched the cameras for a while. I walked outside and looked at the sheds. I was trying to get in them because there's like an apartment in one of them at the top, and I just wanted to sit up there for a while.
That'd be cool.
But they're all locked, so I look inside. It looks pretty creepy in there, but I can't get inside. So I walk around for a while and talk to Christian, and right then we were thinking, well, maybe we can come back when it's a little warmer and then get them to open up the sheds for us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to probably do that.
I would go back.
Yeah, during
Yeah.
the summertime. Other than that, came back in, watched the cameras for a while, didn't get anything.
When we left for the break, when we got down there, Christian was like, did you guys move that camera? Or was that the second
That
time
was
we
the
went
second
back?
time.
That was the second time
Yeah,
we
this
went back
point-
up. Right.
There was nothing going on. I mean, we sat around for a while. You know.
Everybody kept
I
setting
mean,
off the tattletale, but it never went off, like,
Yeah.
organically.
There was not really anything. We could hear you guys a little bit, and so
Yeah, knew something was going on for
knew
us.
something. Yeah, I heard some laughing every once in a while.
It was our stomach.
It was nervous laughing, yeah, because everybody's stomachs kept going, and we could hear them.
Mine growled, like, it wasn't even growling because I had food. It was like my digestion is just
Yeah.
really loud. And it did this, like, big, like,
And we lost it. And I was like, that's it. The session's over now. Like, they're not going to come back after that. But they did.
It was a terrible noise.
It was.
Dan would always be like, "You hear that?" And it was like someone's stomach or something.
Yeah. And then it's important. I think it was good that everybody was good about, like, marking. You know, it's like they would shift their feet and be like, that was me. Like, just so that everybody knew, you know.
And that's part of it, right? When you walk into a room or something, you make sure
Like, I'm walking. You make yourself
I've
known.
come in this room. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going up the steps.
Yeah.
So we don't think that we're hearing, like, ghost footsteps, but they're people footsteps.
Yeah, and when we look at the footage again, we know that we didn't
Something
just
happened.
accidentally hear something.
Yeah.
I guess then we're on to our last session. And we went into our last session just before midnight,
Yeah.
which is a
weird.
choice.
Yeah, it was a decision that we made.
We also didn't plan on staying that late.
We
Because, like,
didn't.
I have a really early bedtime due to the fact that I'm pregnant and I'm tired all the time. So,
And
we
her
were like,
morning
oh,
sickness hits her at night.
yeah, well, and it's because I like take a med, so when I haven't taken it yet for my night for up to the next day, it starts hitting me. It wasn't too bad. It was just like a little. I was like, we should probably go.
Yeah.
But we went in for one last session because we were wired after that last one.
It was so cool. Yeah.
It was like so much just happened.
Yeah. Tiffany was like, I didn't even realize what time it was. And she was like, are you okay? Like, with the time, with how late it is? And I was like, you have to be the one to make that decision.
Yeah.
Like,
And I was like, let's do
wired
one more
for sound.
session.
I was
Let's
like,
do one
I am wide awake right now, but you're the one who's pregnant, so
Yeah.
you have to decide that.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, one more session.
One more session.
One more. It's
And
fine.
then Jen went with us that time.
No, Jen came in during
Oh,
the
came in
session.
later
Remember,
and
just
sat on the bed, and the marbles went
yeah,
everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And
put all
scared
of the
the
toys
shit
on
out of
one
us.
bed.
That I
was
knew.
fun.
I saw her sit down. Like, she sat down without any issue.
It was the
And
standing up that
It was
became
a
an
standing
issue.
back up, and it, like, it scared
We lost
me.
our marbles.
We lost our marbles, yeah. Yeah.
So we went back in for a third session in that same room. And
That
keep in mind, our
bathroom.
first session was in like the kids' room, and then the last two have been in the bathroom off of the kids' room.
Yeah.
And I was sitting kind of at the threshold between the two rooms because I really didn't want to be in the bathroom. But we just kept going into the bathroom. 'Cause
Yeah,
we were
that's
getting,
where the activity was.
we had activity in the room too.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Yeah.
I feel like we didn't have to
It
go
was
to
the only
I didn't
place.
like the bathroom.
Overall, in the
I
whole house
felt
that had activity.
okay in there. I mean, I didn't love being in there, but, like, I didn't feel like, I don't want to be in here. I don't
That
know.
was the only room like in when I was like walking around by myself because you guys would go one way and I'm like, I'm the person in a horror movie who's gonna get murdered first. Let me go off
'Cause
by
they
myself.
run off by themselves. Yes.
And that was the only room that I was like, I don't like this room.
Yeah. And we ended up leaving. When did we end up leaving Christy by herself? Because it said, like,
Yeah,
It
that's
wanted
when
us
we
to
started
leave.
getting Christy's name a lot.
yeah. And then Jen took over Spirit Box at one point, and she also got Christy.
Yeah, so Christy heard her
Yeah.
own name,
Yeah.
I heard her name, and Jen heard her
Yeah.
name.
At some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was always followed closely by Help. Sometimes. I can't say
guess
always.
I was like, I
it
would
would be
say
Christy
always.
or, like, and then nothing. And then it would say Christy and Help.
Yeah, we got Christy help a lot,
Yeah.
which is weird.
And we talked about it on the way. Because so her husband, Joel, wasn't feeling well. It sounded a lot like food poisoning, honestly.
Mhm.
But she made the joke, like, when we all came back down at one point, she made the joke. I was like, they're telling me to help you
Yeah.
because you don't feel good. I was like,
That
oh.
could be it.
It could
Could
be.
be. I don't know. I was like, oh.
Wife, Christy,
I felt-
help.
Yeah. But they've not been married for 2 years.
No. But
But
that guy
2 years was Harrison died 2 years
Yeah.
after.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows?
could have been that.
Could have been that.
You know, we don't really know. We were talking to ghosts, so.
Yeah. It was so cool. There was so much activity. That was awesome.
Yeah, and that time we didn't have the K2, but we had the same like temperature thing that had been on my lab when we were using it, and so it was green, and it was basically like, can you make it red for a yes?
Did
And
it?
it went off a lot. It went off a lot. We're
What's
just gonna have to go back.
Okay, Josh, what's your favorite piece of paranormal ghost hunting equipment that you use?
The spirit box.
The spirit box?
Yeah, no one else likes it really. Christy usually doesn't use it that much.
It was
I love
working
that thing.
really well.
I love that thing. I'll just sit there and just
listen.
listen. Yeah.
I feel like that would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
It
I
does.
just
I did listen to it a
stopped
little
when
bit.
I was listening to it. I was like, hey, this is making me lightheaded. Does anybody want to switch? Because
Yeah.
just like the white noise sound.
It just feels like it's like scrambling your brain and it feels so good.
I don't
Oh,
think
I
I would
don't
like that.
like
I don't think I
that.
would like that.
I
I
did
did
not.
listen to it a little bit, but I didn't really get much of anything.
And we went in. Our last session was a lot like our second to last. It really liked Christy.
Yeah.
Said help a lot. We couldn't quite figure out why. We got Mike.
Yeah, Mike, which was weird.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know
Which-
anybody named Michael or Mike.
Like,
or
yeah, I
anything
couldn't
like-
find any history of any Mike in the house.
Yeah.
I truly was like, going into it, I was like, literally nothing's going to happen.
Meanwhile, I'm like, everything's gonna happen, and I'm
So-
gonna be scared.
Sav thought we were going to be like possessed by demons. And
I
was
did
like,
not think we were
we're
going
going
to
to sit in the dark
Yeah,
for
she
4
did.
hours.
No, I didn't. I did think something scary was gonna happen, but I didn't think we were actually gonna be possessed. Waverly, maybe, but
I'm good.
You are. That's true. You survived, and we survived.
We
Which is cool.
survived.
We survived our first ghost
Our first ghost
investigation.
hunt.
Yeah, ghost hunt.
Yeah.
Do you prefer investigation or hunt, or does
What
it
do we
matter?
say?
What do you say?
Investigation.
Investigation. Okay.
You're not hunting them.
We went hunting. Yeah, no.
We're investigating.
Investigating. I just loved it. Dan was like a kid in a candy store. He was like,
yeah.
I've got to go investigate that, and like left. And
Yeah.
I was like, he is adorable.
Yeah.
I like him a lot.
I feel bad though, because like I wish he had gotten to be in there when we did a lot.
I
of
know.
The, had, like, a lot
yeah,
of
that's what
good
we were talking
responses.
Yeah.
That would be
He's
so
like,
awesome.
I wish I'd been in there. And
I wish we had a
too.
camera straight on that too. 'Cause
I
we did
know.
not. We had a
Yeah.
recorder in there though, so we're gonna look
Yeah,
at that.
we had a. We do.
Yeah, and so you're gonna
recorders.
hear me being like, I just got really dizzy. Several times it happened a lot,
And then succession of events.
and yeah.
When you all left, what was?
Oh yeah,
time
what
was it?
happened?
What
What
time was
happened?
it?
If
It
any,
was like-
We
probably
left like a little before 1.
yeah,
Okay,
So
so
we got home at 2.
yeah,
we went back up into Harriet's room,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
and that was the only room that we really saw anything. Right?
It was the
or
only
activity.
thing, the only room anything
Right.
was happening. Yeah.
And we just sat there, and it took a while. We just sat there for a while. We were talking, Dan, Christian, Jen, and I. And Dan and I were in between the beds. We were looking out towards
Why?
Again.
We were like looking out towards the hallway,
Okay.
Oh, okay, so you're okay.
You're like
Yeah.
facing the one bed.
facing the one bed.
Back to the
with your
other
back
bed.
to the other bed, which
yeah.
is worse.
Well, I
to
had
me.
Dan beside me. I feel safe around Dan.
Safe with Dan.
Dan's gonna keep.
No
it.
one's
Dan
gonna
will
hurt
keep me
Dan.
safe.
Um,
He's too precious.
yeah. So he's right there. It's all good. Jen and Christian are like looking at us, like the rest of the room.
So they're sitting on the other side, or standing, or whatever on the other
Yeah.
side of the
They're
bed. Okay.
they're sitting on the other side. Yeah, looking
Okay.
this way.
Okay.
And definitely, I don't know. Dan and I thought we saw a shadow like go through the hallway, and then all of us heard like rustling in the room across the hallway.
Oh.
Now we need to go back and look at that, but it wasn't like just some random thing. It was a lot of rustling over probably several minutes of time.
Oh.
Oh. Like consistent or like on and off?
It would on and off, like,
Okay.
but it wasn't just one time.
Yeah, and that was everybody in the house because we had left, and then
And Joel and
Christy
Christy
and
left.
Joel also left because Joel wasn't feeling well. So that was the remainder of the group was all in one room.
Everyone was
so
there.
it couldn't have been another person.
Mm-mm.
So we were like, oh my gosh, like we kept hearing this. We legit were starting to get scared. We thought maybe someone had just walked in the house.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
because it's open, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyone can walk in. And so like
Not-
that neighbor.
It's open while it was open while we were there. It
We were
is locked and there's an alarm, so like
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
do anything
I was
stupid.
gonna say
but
we were
like,
supposed to have the door locked, but we couldn't lock it because we had a cord going to the
going out.
camera outside.
yeah.
Yeah, so
We were
anyone
just
could have
sitting
walked
ducks.
in. Yeah. And no, we couldn't see anyone.
Mm-mm.
So we're like, oh my gosh, like
But all the wrestling was in the other room, or was it like in that like middle space
it
by
was
the stairwell?
some in the other room, but you couldn't really tell always. It was
Mhm.
either in the hallway or in the other room.
Okay.
And so it's like someone could be walking up the steps. Someone could be just right around there. You don't exactly know you know.
Yeah, and it's pitch black in that house. Like,
And
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh my gosh, like at least they're
sitting
going to
next-
get Jen and Christian before they get Dan and I.
Yeah.
Like if they
Like,
walk in,
they have a
they're going to
plan.
hit them first.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I'm going to get out the window.
I'm jumping out the window.
But then it kind of went silent. So then we went to the other room and we sat in there for a while. We played cards for a second. We sat on the ground and didn't hear anything else.
Yeah.
But that was wild. I was like, okay, we need to. There's a camera in the other room. We're going to look at that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. I was ready to leave then.
Yeah.
That was
You're
good.
like, I'm noping out of
Yeah.
here real hard. Anyway,
So that was our very first ghost hunt.
it was cool.
I did not think
Investigation.
You guys were going to see this much.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were. I don't know. I thought we'd either see a lot or nothing.
Yeah.
But I still didn't think we'd see this.
I was like,
You
because
know what I
we're
mean?
trying
Like,
to do it for content, we're not going to get anything. Was I wrong? Yes.
That's how Tiffany ultimately convinced me to do it. Was like, but it's our anniversary. Like it would drop like
It'd
on
be
our anniversary
such
month.
Great
Like
content.
2 years of the podcast. Like come on. And I was like,
That's what I kept telling her.
fine. So I begrudgingly said yes.
And you
I'm
loved
glad I
it.
did. I loved it.
You
It was
loved
cool.
it.
After the first session was over with, I was like, all right, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
feel like-
okay.
I could have left you there and you with Josh and be like, Josh will bring you home, and you would have been like, okay.
I honestly didn't even think about that, but I probably would have done it. Yeah.
You all saw way more like
I would have
activity.
peed myself though
Then-
if I heard the freaking rustling. I would have been like, "Can we leave now, please? I would rather
That
not
was
be here."
pretty scary, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I don't get scared very easily.
I get scared so easily.
So we finally got Josh back on
Yes.
to talk about ghosts. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
One more thing.
One more thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need some comments to get her to go to Waverly.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, more comments. Let's say 5 comments. She goes to Waverly for sure.
No.
Oh.
We will get more. We will get 5 comments. No, it has
I'm
to
gonna
be.
make this a
No,
It
I don't
has
want it to be
a reach. Like,
Okay,
it has to be a reach.
how many comments do you usually
I
get?
don't know.
We usually
it's not
don't
so
get
much
any
like comments.
Okay, 5 sounds like a lot then.
No, it's not. I don't feel like comments would work. But
No,
like,
you
what
just
if
don't
we
want it
could
to be-
shoot for? No,
You want it
I'm
to
willing.
be unrealistic.
I'm willing to make a case, and I'm willing to make a reach goal that is attainable.
Yeah, 5.
So, what do we want? Do we want reviews? Do we want
I mean, I always
listener
love a
stories
review.
submitted? Yeah. I'm thinking if we get...
How about like a combo deal? Like either like 10 total reviews or listener stories within 2 weeks of this coming out.
Okay. I'm all right. If we get that, a combo deal, it could be 10 reviews, it could be 10 listener stories, 5 of each, whatever.
I'm going to do one myself.
Please.
That's
Please,
one of
that
them.
would be great.
Also 9 left.
This doesn't count. It's after this comes out. So, yeah, I'll go to Waverly. If we get that, if that goal is hit. Now, what's that date? So that's the cutoff.
This episode drops on April 30th.
Okay.
So we'll give it till our next episode. So it's on May 15th.
You know what? That's going to be my anniversary. Are you
happy
kidding? Hold on.
anniversary,
30th.
Sam.
1, 2. Yeah, 2 weeks. I'll be on my anniversary trip. in
Perfect
Tennessee.
timing.
So by May 14th, my anniversary is May 12th, in case anybody cares. Yeah, if we get whatever, all
I'm gonna
that.
make this a reel because we always
Do
get
it.
the most views on our reels.
Do it. I will go to Waverly for a daylight tour.
No, that's not. A regular ghost investigation at
Can I
night.
limit how long I have to stay?
7 hours.
I'm not staying for
We
7
didn't
hours.
stay
It's
7 hours
absolutely
this
not going to
time.
happen. But a minimum of an hour.
What? No, that's not.
A minimum
2
of 2
hours
hours
after dark.
A minimum of 2 hours after the sun goes down. I will stay at Waverly for a minimum of 2 hours after the sun goes down.
Okay.
On an investigation.
I can agree to that.
Okay.
All right.
Oh God, what have I gotten myself into? And see, in like 3 weeks from now, we're like, we're going to Waverly, guys.
August.
Oh, in August. Okay.
In
August.
August.
Shit, then you're not going to be
No, I
with
can't
me! Oh, you have to go. There's absolutely no reason for you to pull out. Like, you have to be there. If Josh isn't going, even if
Josh has to be there.
even
I'll
if
be
it's
there.
last minute,
I'll be
no, not
super
you.
pregnant.
You will be super pregnant. If Josh, for whatever reason, like, oh, sorry, something came up last minute, I'm not going. I'm not going. Like,
Oh,
that's my like
Don't
get
worry
out of
about it.
jail
Don't worry
free
about
card.
it. If
No, I know.
If they do all this, I'm definitely going.
Okay,
All right, guys.
that's my get out of jail free card, though.
We need 10 reviews or listener stories to come in between April 30th when this episode drops and May 14th. And Sav's going to go ghost investigating with Josh at Waverly in August. We're going to wrap this up and go eat dinner.
Y'all pray for me, and I
Y'all
hope you
leave us
enjoyed
some
this.
reviews.
Yes, jeez. And if we are one short, I'm not doing it. The deal is completely off.
So
if
you've
we're
got to
one
make
short.
it happen.
All right, guys. Thank you. Happy anniversary to NSGO Pod. Those of you who have been here for the full 2 years, we appreciate you. Those of you who are new, we appreciate you too. And we hope you enjoyed our first recap of our first ever ghost investigation. And in the meantime, stay safe out there.
Thanks for watching. Music by Purple Planet. Art by Ruby Congrove. Logo by Catherine Dodds. For more information and our sources, head over to notsogreatoutdoors.com. For updates and announcements, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at NSGOPod. Don't forget to subscribe on all of your favorite podcasting platforms.